How big is your part in the movie, seriously?
Well, when you see it.
Are you like a co-star?
You got $750.
You're not like an extra. Are you like an extra?
I'm not an extra.
Do you
I'll
have
stand in the
lines?
back.
Don Rickles spent more than 6 decades in the entertainment industry, performing everywhere from Las Vegas showrooms to television studios and even the White House. Throughout that remarkable career, he built his reputation on one simple idea: nobody was off limits. It did not matter how famous, wealthy, or powerful someone was. If they were in the room, they could become the target of a Rickles joke. Frank Sinatra experienced it. Presidents experienced it. Countless Hollywood stars experienced it. Johnny Carson famously gave him the nickname Mr. Warmth, a title that became legendary precisely because Rickles' stage persona was anything but warm. His sharp tongue, fearless delivery, and willingness to challenge anyone made him one of the most unique comedians America had ever seen.
And Bubba, with a few almonds on your face, we got candy.
What truly separated Rickles from many other insult comics, however, was his approach to race. Rather than using stereotypes to attack people, he often used them to expose prejudice and make audiences confront their own discomfort. Over the years, he formed close friendships with performers such as Sammy Davis Jr. and Sidney Poitier, who understood that his humor was aimed at racism itself, not at its victims. Those friendships gave Rickles a front-row seat to some of Hollywood's darkest realities. Throughout his career, he witnessed talented black entertainers face discrimination, humiliation, and unequal treatment behind the scenes.
Do you have lines in the movie?
No, I don't have lines. No, I don't have lines. I just stand there and I wet my pants. What do you think I do?
Friends later recalled that Rickles never forgot those moments. He remembered the insults, the injustices, and the people responsible for them. As the years passed, those memories stayed with him. Then, in 2007, he finally decided to speak more openly. In his memoir, Rickles' Book, he reflected on the people he had known throughout his long career. While many expected him to soften with age, Rickles did the opposite. He wrote candidly about individuals he admired and those he deeply disliked, including figures whose racist behavior had disgusted him for years. Among the figures Don Rickles criticized most strongly throughout his career were individuals who, in his view, had used their influence to reinforce racial discrimination within the entertainment industry. These were not people accused of isolated incidents or private prejudices. They were powerful figures whose actions shaped careers, controlled opportunities, and influenced how millions of Americans viewed race through film, television, and music. According to Rickles, these individuals represented the worst side of old Hollywood. They benefited from a system that often marginalized black performers while protecting those at the top. Even decades later, their names could still provoke strong reactions from him during interviews and conversations about the industry's past. At number 5 on Rickles' list was legendary filmmaker Cecil B. DeMille. Few figures held more influence during Hollywood's formative years than DeMille. As the director of massive productions such as The Ten Commandments, Samson and Delilah, and The King of Kings, he helped define the spectacle and grandeur that became synonymous with classic Hollywood filmmaking. His impact on the industry was so significant that the prestigious Golden Globe Lifetime Achievement Award was named after him. Even today, DeMille remains one of the most celebrated pioneers in American cinema history. Yet behind that respected public image was a far more controversial legacy.
I'm only kidding you, Bubba. The black people belong in this country.
While Don Rickles never worked directly with DeMille, performers who came of age during the 1940s and 1950s frequently discussed his influence behind the scenes. According to many critics, DeMille used his enormous power not only to shape movies, but also to shape the political culture of Hollywood itself. One of the most controversial chapters of his career involved his role in the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals, an organization formed in 1944. The group included several prominent Hollywood conservatives who opposed what they viewed as dangerous political influences within the film industry. Over time, the organization became closely associated with efforts that contributed to the Hollywood blacklist. Many actors, writers, and entertainers found themselves scrutinized for their political beliefs, public activism, or support for civil rights causes. Critics argued that these actions created an atmosphere of fear that damaged careers and discouraged outspoken support for racial equality. For Rickles and many others, that legacy cast a long shadow over DeMille's accomplishments. While his films remained celebrated, his involvement in efforts that targeted progressive voices and civil rights supporters became a major reason why some entertainers viewed him as one of the most troubling figures of Hollywood's golden age. Critics of Cecil B. DeMille often pointed to his involvement with anti-communist efforts during Hollywood's blacklist era. According to historical accounts, he supported investigations that targeted entertainers whose political views or civil rights activism were viewed as controversial at the time. Many of those accused found their careers severely damaged, while others struggled for years to find work within the industry. Organizations such as the Anti-Defamation League criticized some of the tactics used during that period, arguing that they fostered fear, division, and unfair treatment. Yet despite the controversy, DeMille's standing within Hollywood remained largely intact. His films continued to be celebrated, his achievements honored, and his name became permanently attached to one of the entertainment industry's highest awards. For Don Rickles, this disconnect was difficult to ignore. He reportedly believed that public memory focused almost entirely on DeMille's accomplishments while overlooking the harm caused by the political and social campaigns he supported. To Rickles, it was a contradiction that a filmmaker known for grand stories about freedom and justice could also be associated with efforts that limited opportunities for others. That contradiction helped place DeMille among the figures Rickles viewed most critically. At number 4 was Howard Hughes, one of the most fascinating and controversial businessmen in American history. Hughes was an aviation pioneer, billionaire investor, film producer, and eventually one of the most powerful figures in both Hollywood and Las Vegas. His influence stretched across industries, giving him enormous control over entertainment during the mid-20th century. By the time Rickles became a major attraction in Las Vegas, Hughes had acquired significant casino and hotel holdings throughout the city. Many entertainers worked in venues connected to his business empire, and his policies affected performers both on and off the stage. According to numerous accounts from the era, racial segregation remained a reality in parts of Las Vegas long after black entertainers had become major attractions.
When the show is over, clean up these tables. As you laugh and see if you see teeth coming towards me.
Talented performers could headline packed showrooms and generate enormous profits, yet still face restrictions in the very properties where they performed. Access to hotel accommodations, restaurants, pools, and other facilities was often limited or denied altogether. Critics argued that Hughes did little to challenge these practices. During his years in Hollywood, similar concerns emerged regarding representation on screen and opportunities for minority performers behind the scenes. Former employees and industry observers described an environment where progress on racial equality moved slowly, despite changing attitudes elsewhere in the entertainment world. For Rickles, who had close friendships with many black entertainers, those realities were impossible to overlook. He viewed the gap between the profits generated by black performers and the treatment they often received as one of the most troubling examples of inequality in old Hollywood and Las Vegas.
What the hell you think we're doing here?
Well, I don't know,
It's a
because
big movie.
does it come by? We're
It's a
shooting
big movie, and you're starting to steam me, Letterman.
Howard Hughes was known for exercising extraordinary control over the businesses and people within his orbit. Stories about his management style became legendary, particularly his intense oversight of actress Jane Russell's career. But according to critics, that same desire for control extended far beyond individual performers and into the broader culture of the companies he owned. For Don Rickles, the most troubling aspect of Hughes's legacy was not his eccentric behavior or reclusive lifestyle. It was the reality that many black entertainers continued to face discrimination while performing in venues connected to his business empire. Even as stars like Sammy Davis Jr. attracted sold-out crowds and generated enormous profits, segregation and unequal treatment remained deeply embedded in Las Vegas. Ownership changed, fortunes changed, but many of the old barriers remained firmly in place. Rickles believed Hughes had both the wealth and influence to challenge those systems, but chose not to. A longtime associate later recalled Rickles saying that Hughes had enough money to create any world he wanted, yet seemed content preserving the one he already knew. To Rickles, that was far more revealing than any of the billionaire's famous eccentricities. At number 3 was Jack Entratter, the powerful entertainment executive who ran the Sands Hotel and Casino during the height of Las Vegas' golden era. For Rickles, this story was especially personal because it involved Sammy Davis Jr., one of his closest friends. Entratter oversaw the Sands from the early 1950s until 1971, turning it into one of the most famous entertainment venues in America. The legendary Copa Room hosted stars such as Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr., helping define the Rat Pack era and the image of glamorous Las Vegas. Yet behind the glamour was a much darker reality. Black performers were welcomed on stage because they sold tickets and filled seats. Sammy Davis Jr. was one of the biggest attractions in the city, drawing enthusiastic crowds night after night. Audiences applauded his performances, praised his talent, and viewed themselves as progressive supporters of entertainment's biggest stars.
You're starting to sting me.
Just come in and ask if we need any more ice.
I came out here with a good attitude.
What many of those audience members never witnessed were the restrictions that continued after the curtain came down. According to numerous accounts from the period, Davis often faced barriers that prevented him from enjoying the same access granted to white performers and guests. While he could headline the showroom, many parts of the hotel remained effectively off limits. Segregation in Las Vegas forced many black entertainers to stay elsewhere despite their fame and success. For Rickles, that contradiction was impossible to ignore. The same people who celebrated Sammy Davis Jr. on stage often accepted a system that denied him equal treatment once the performance was over, making Entratter one of the figures Rickles remembered most critically. According to numerous accounts from Las Vegas' segregated era, the restrictions placed on black entertainers were not accidental remnants of the past. They were actively enforced policies maintained by powerful individuals within the casino industry. One story that deeply affected Don Rickles involved Sammy Davis Jr. and the treatment he received while performing at the Sands Hotel. Despite being one of the most talented and successful entertainers in America, Davis was often denied privileges routinely granted to white performers and guests. Accounts from the period describe black entertainers being directed through service entrances and restricted from areas freely accessible to others. Rickles witnessed much of this firsthand during the 1960s while performing alongside Davis in Las Vegas. As their friendship grew, he heard countless stories about the frustrations and humiliations Davis faced despite his enormous success. To Rickles, the situation highlighted a painful contradiction. Audiences adored Sammy Davis Jr. on stage, yet many accepted a system that treated him as a second-class citizen once the show ended. Years later, Rickles wrote about that period with obvious frustration. He wanted readers to understand that the discrimination Davis encountered was not symbolic or exaggerated. It was woven into the daily operations of the city and enforced through policies that affected where performers could stay, enter, and socialize. Friends recalled that even late in life, Rickles became visibly upset whenever these stories resurfaced. He believed Sammy Davis Jr. deserved to be remembered not only for his extraordinary talent, but also for the barriers he overcame throughout his career. At number 2 was Colonel Tom Parker, the controversial manager who guided Elvis Presley's career for more than 2 decades. Parker transformed Elvis into one of the most successful entertainers in history, overseeing nearly every major business decision from the mid-1950s until Presley's death in 1977. Rickles crossed paths with Parker frequently during the Las Vegas years, particularly after Elvis began his famous residency at the International Hotel. Over time, Parker developed a reputation as a brilliant promoter and negotiator, but also as a fiercely controlling manager whose primary focus was commercial success. Critics argued that the Presley phenomenon was built upon musical traditions deeply rooted in black culture. Elvis openly acknowledged many of those influences, drawing inspiration from gospel, rhythm, and blues, and the artists he admired growing up in the South. The criticism aimed at Parker centered on the belief that the business machine surrounding Elvis profited enormously from those influences, while many of the black musicians who helped create the sound received far less recognition and financial reward. For Rickles, that imbalance represented another example of how the entertainment industry often benefited from black talent without providing equal opportunities or acknowledgement in return. Much of the criticism directed at Colonel Tom Parker centered on the way Elvis Presley's career benefited from musical traditions that originated within black communities. Songs that helped launch Presley's rise to stardom, including That's All Right and Hound Dog, were first recorded or written by black artists whose contributions often received far less recognition than the versions that became mainstream hits. Elvis himself openly acknowledged many of his influences, drawing heavily from gospel, rhythm, and blues, and Southern black musical traditions. However, critics argued that the music industry of the 1950s frequently rewarded white performers far more generously than the black artists who pioneered those sounds. According to music historians, many black musicians signed contracts that provided little financial protection or long-term compensation. As Presley's popularity exploded, the original creators of some of the songs often saw only a fraction of the profits generated by their work. For Don Rickles, the issue was not simply about Elvis. It was about the business structure surrounding him. Parker became one of the most successful managers in entertainment history, earning enormous sums while building a commercial empire around music deeply influenced by black artists and culture. Over the years, critics questioned whether Parker did enough to spotlight the musicians whose work helped shape Presley's sound. Others argued that the manager's decisions prioritized profit above all else, leaving many of those original artists largely forgotten by mainstream audiences. A longtime producer later recalled Rickles describing Parker's operation as one of the most profitable examples of the entertainment industry, benefiting from black creativity while directing the majority of the rewards elsewhere. Whether entirely fair or not, that perception became a major reason Rickles viewed Parker so negatively. At number 1 was Al Jolson, a performer whose legacy remains one of the most controversial in entertainment history. Born in what is now Lithuania in 1886, Jolson rose to become one of the biggest stars in America during the early 20th century. His success was built largely on blackface performances, a form of entertainment that involved white performers darkening their skin and portraying exaggerated racial stereotypes for predominantly white audiences. Jolson became one of the highest-paid entertainers of his era, and his influence stretched across vaudeville, Broadway, radio, and film. His 1927 movie, The Jazz Singer, is often remembered as the first major feature-length motion picture with synchronized sound, helping launch the talking picture era. However, the film also prominently featured blackface performances, making those portrayals part of one of the most significant milestones in cinema history. By the time Rickles entered show business in the 1950s, the entertainment industry was still grappling with Jolson's enormous influence. To Rickles, no figure symbolized the normalization of racial caricatures in American entertainment more than Al Jolson, which is why he placed him at the very top of his list. In Don Rickles' view, Al Jolson's significance went far beyond his own performances. Rickles believed Jolson helped establish a tradition that normalized blackface entertainment for generations of performers who followed. Because of Jolson's immense popularity, practices that might otherwise have faced stronger public criticism instead became accepted parts of mainstream American entertainment. What made Jolson particularly controversial was the central role blackface played in his career. While some entertainers of the era used it occasionally as part of broader acts, Jolson built much of his public identity around it. Across stage performances, recordings, and films, he repeatedly returned to the same style that had made him famous. Supporters of Jolson have long argued that his legacy is more complicated than many critics acknowledge. Historians have pointed out that he sometimes supported black performers professionally, expressed admiration for black musical traditions, and occasionally challenged certain industry barriers. Those facts remain part of the historical record. However, critics argue that these actions do not erase the larger issue. The foundation of Jolson's success was still built on performances that presented racial caricatures to white audiences. To them, the contradiction was impossible to ignore. A performer could admire aspects of black culture while simultaneously profiting from portrayals that reinforced harmful stereotypes. The debate became even more complicated after his death. Films such as The Jolson Story and Jolson Sings Again helped introduce his story to new generations, often emphasizing his achievements while downplaying the role blackface played in building his career. As a result, many Americans remembered Jolson primarily as a pioneering entertainer rather than as one of the most influential figures in the history of racial caricature in popular culture. For Rickles, that selective memory was part of the problem. He reportedly believed that the entertainment industry often celebrated its pioneers while avoiding difficult conversations about the damage some of their work had caused. More broadly, Rickles spent over 60 years observing Hollywood, Las Vegas, television, and the music industry from the inside. He worked alongside some of the most famous entertainers of the 20th century and witnessed firsthand how power operated behind the scenes. While he admired many people he encountered throughout his career, he never hesitated to criticize those he believed had used their influence to support discrimination or inequality. Whether discussing filmmakers, casino executives, managers, or performers, Rickles viewed these stories as reminders that success and fame do not erase responsibility. In his eyes, the entertainment industry's greatest figures deserve to be remembered not only for their achievements, but also for the impact their actions had on the people around them. What Don Rickles witnessed over 6 decades in entertainment was often very different from the image the public saw. Audiences watched glamorous stars, legendary performers, and beloved industry icons. Behind the scenes, however, Rickles saw a world where fame did not always protect people from discrimination, unfair treatment, or abuse of power. The 5 figures highlighted in this story represented, in Rickles' eyes, some of the clearest examples of that contradiction. There was the Hollywood pioneer whose political influence helped shape careers and silence others. The billionaire whose power stretched across both Hollywood and Las Vegas. The casino executive connected to the segregation that performers like Sammy Davis Jr. faced. The manager who built a fortune around music rooted in black culture, while critics argued the original artists received too little recognition. And finally, the entertainer whose career helped normalize blackface performance for generations. Rickles spoke about these issues throughout his life. He discussed them in interviews, referenced them in conversations, and addressed some of them directly in his memoir. What made him different from many of his contemporaries was his refusal to forget what he had witnessed. While others preferred nostalgia, Rickles often focused on the realities hidden beneath the glamour. He believed that comedy could do more than make people laugh. It could challenge hypocrisy, expose uncomfortable truths, and force audiences to confront subjects many would rather ignore. That belief stayed with him until the very end of his life. Whether you agree with all of Rickles' opinions or not, his perspective offers a fascinating look at a side of Hollywood history that is rarely discussed. It serves as a reminder that the most celebrated public figures are often far more complicated than the images presented on screen. Which story surprised you the most? Were any of these accounts new to you, or had you heard about them before? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want more untold stories from Hollywood's golden age, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.